I've read a little bit about how this story may overlap and compare to your own experience in college. I want to know what parts of this show would you say are most true to that experience and which parts are not as much?
I think not as much as easy because I really get along with my sister and we did go to college together and we don't really fight. But I didn't come out to her like before I came out to the woman I met in college. So maybe that, yeah. But yeah, no, that's definitely one that we were building a story and wanted to tell different ones. But as far as very similar to mine, I think the relationship between Benny and Carmen is so similar to when I met my best girlfriend in college. And I think I finally was like, whoa, I don't have to do like the whole show for you. You might kind of like fuck with me if I don't, even like that would be shocking, but okay. And that relationship, I think, is the core of this show and was like a main inspiration. And I think since this is a spoiler interview, I think falling in love with straight men and perceiving a love of masculinity or I guess, yeah, I think an addiction to masculinity, I think that I
Mhm.
did have during that time and such internalized homophobia as to like avoid loving a gay man because that would almost be too scary. And I think that that's a part of it too. But yeah, I think the complicatedness of coming out and those feelings and those feelings landing on the wrong people and it's not their fault and it's not your fault. And all of that I think was an inspiration for this show. And yeah, I really wanted to make it for queer people to see it and maybe like judge themselves a little less for
Yeah.
coming out experience, which is like so messy and complicated and twisted. And then I think on the other end, really beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And Wally, for you, it's just interesting because to go on this journey with Carmen, because it's just like as the audience, we kind of have most of the information, at the beginning of the series and how, Carmen's deciphering and learning more about this relationship and this friendship. So it's so interesting to kind of put, as a viewer, put yourself into her shoes and kind of think how I would react if I was in the situation that she's in. But to specifically talk about the final moments of the season, which we need a season two because how do you end on a cliffhanger like that and not have a resolution from that? That's the first thing. So
Sorry.
we
Yeah.
need fingers crossed, fingers crossed. But how do you think that Carmen feels in this moment? Because it's a moment that we don't know too much of what other people heard, but you can see her visceral reaction in this moment with something that may impact her best friend.
I think it's the lowest of lowest of lows for her. And even I think she could even feel lower than is the reality in the sense that she could probably feels like no matter what I touch, everything crumbles and I ruin everything, which she did ruin a whole lot of things. But I think that if I were actually her in that moment, I would think I would be pretty fatalistic about myself and my self-esteem would be pretty low to the ground.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so interesting because I think that we see the season kind of moves as far as like ups and downs. I feel like our characters have really high highs and they
Yeah.
Yeah.
have really low lows. It's very free, it's not frequently that it's in between that. It's either super high or super low. And
Mhm.
I think that it speaks to like the human condition, especially during a time in college when you're
Yeah.
learning more about yourself. And then you're put in a situation where, you're learning about yourself, but your friend is having a journey that may kind of be parallel to you, may kind of not be parallel to you, and
Yeah.
I think that's why I feel like it's going to resonate with so many people because I think everyone can be both Benny and Carmen in these situations for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I
Definitely.
hope
Awesome.
so.
Yeah.
I love this sibling dynamic that we have here. And I think it's one that we've necessarily not seen before because it's not really your typical like golden child underdog dynamic. It's much more nuanced than that. So what did you like specifically about this dynamic between Grace and Benny in the series?
Well, as someone that is the favorite child in my family, I just thought it was really fun to be able to explore a sibling dynamic where you are not the golden child that's sort of like everything you do is perfect and your parents just choose you and shower you with love. And so I really liked that they also in my family I have five older siblings, so we tease each other as a way to show love. And I really liked that Grace and Benny are kind of at odds with each other pretty much throughout the entire season. We don't really see a scene where they connect and really start to like have empathy and understanding for each other. Maybe a little bit after they see how insane their parents have become in their absence in the Thanksgiving episode, but it's like just a flicker of what their relationship could be if they both didn't feel like they had to put on this performance in order to receive love. So I felt really excited to be able to do that with Benny. And because I feel like women and gay men have an almost sibling dynamic already, because we're just like so always brutally honest with each other and being like, that looks bad. No, don't wear that. What did you just say? Like we got to play into that in a new way, which I had a lot of fun doing, even though we didn't have a ton of scenes together, but just knowing that I was kind of the older, wiser one, which I guess is true in our real lives as well.
I love that. I love that. And Rich, for you, Miles is a character that's so mysterious because it takes a few episodes in the season before we learn more about him. And then most of this time, we only get Benny's perspective of him. So at the
Yeah.
end of the season, what do you really think that Miles's perspective is on how he views this friendship and this relationship?
I think he's really confused by the end of the season as to what he's done wrong, and he's trying so hard to figure that out. I think he just feels a bit shunned and I want to say like yeah, just left out. He's kind of rolling around campus waiting for Benny to respond, and he doesn't really feel like he fits in at F and G either. But he's just there because he's seeking that sort of camaraderie that they all seem to have, and yeah, I think there's just a real lack of or a real a lack of like understanding of what he needs, and he's just waiting for answers from Benny, and then you don't know what he's heard at the end there, but I would like to think, and I'm sure he would be very understanding, and I would be so curious to see what that conversation is like going forward between the two of them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And Corteon, for you, I think that Gabe is one of my favorite characters. I think he has some of the most hilarious
Let's
lines
go!
and
Let's
like
go!
literally like the comic relief character of the season. And I want to know for you, since most people know you from the series, from what was it like being in a role
Wow.
like this where you could like show off so much comedic chops in the series?
That's a really good question. It yeah, like it's just a different world for me, like entirely. Like you said, like most people do know me from where I play just such a introverted, like, moody, sad boy. Like even like more moody than Miles. Like just like super like down bad all the time. So honestly, like it has been, and I say this to Benny and like the whole team all the time, like it's been one of the greatest pleasures of my life, like to be a part of the show and to just be a part of something where my whole job is to try and make people laugh and like, represent this thing that is and can be sinister, but at the same time, it's like this hopeful kind of side to Benny's life and to many of the other characters at Yates. But it's honestly just been really fun, and it's been a blast to see people, laugh and smile when they see Gabe, because it definitely was just so much fun to shoot and to perform. I don't know.
First of all, Haley's one of my favorite characters. I think that she, provides such, good comic relief, but like fast and quick comic relief, but also there's a lot to unpack about so much of these lines. But initially you make it that she's this superficial character, but as the episodes go on, you realize she is definitely more than that. So what was it like being able to flesh out what would otherwise kind of be a tropey character within the show?
Well, I think there's aren't people that are just like a caricature. Like every person who you see and you're like, ooh, that's like seems like just a stereotype. It's like if you hang out with them for 2 hours, you're gonna find out that their dad had an affair or whatever. So I'm like, I think that for me, I just tried to make up a background for her that gave her more layers. And then also there was a lot on the page to take from. Like one of my auditions for it was the monologue that Haley does when she's talking to Carmen about campus couture. Look at both of them. I like wear PJs every day. Kidding, just jeans. But so during that monologue, I think you do start to understand. She moved around every single year. Her dad left their family for a DJ. I think I improvised that, but then that became her reality. And I think the more that I filled in how she became this way, I think a lot of it had to do with moving around every single year. Because when you move, I moved a lot growing up too, and it makes you try on so many different hats because you're always meeting. You want to be what the people want as fast as possible. So I think Haley is used to putting on a lot of different hats, and finally she'll find the one that fits. But yeah, I think it's just partially the script, and then it's more fun to play a real person than a caricature. So I was like, and the outfits helped. I mean, you see me now, like right when I was in the hair and makeup, shout out Lorna and Blake. Our hair and makeup was amazing. Right when I was in it,
Your nails.
I was scary to be around. They knew, everyone knew on set when I switched into Haley.
No, yeah. You didn't want to be around it, actually. Shocking. Yeah.
Haley was, you know, she says what she says.
You get too close, her tan comes off on you.
See, that's a big difference. I would never get a spray tan in my life. Haley, spray tan's where it's at, you know? And I think by season 2, who knows? She might be her real skin color.
Maybe.
She'll be a different race.
She might not get spray tans anymore. But that really was I mean, when I was in college, really people were just how she's like patting out her friends, like they were doing like the lotions and like I grew up in Nebraska, and it was like before prom, like everyone was at Ashley Lynn's. This is Ashley Lynn's, the tan place. You guys didn't have it.
I don't know. I had like
they grew up in
Sally Hansen leg spray, and also I would only put it on my legs. So I remember this guy. He said to me, he later came out, and he was like,
looks at me.
He's like, I'm like, Owen is the guy who like will be real with you. And this guy said to me, like, I thought I looked so good, and I tanned my legs, and I was wearing a mini dress, and I didn't do the rest of my body. And he was like, why is your face a different color? I was like,
you were like, no. Yeah. I mean, totally. Haley needs someone to have some hard truth with her. So I hope season 2, Carmen can kind of be like, hey, some things need to change.
Yeah.
And Nell, you didn't know back then you were actually preparing for this role on Overcompensating.
Exactly. I've been preparing for this role for my whole life.
Yeah. And Owen, for you, why do you think that George has this pull towards Benny? Well, I guess honestly, vice versa. Why Benny really has this pull towards George, and kind of has this understanding, even if most of the season it's unspoken. What was it like being able to dive into that aspect and provide kind of that nuance that the character of Benny needed in this season?
Well, I think probably George didn't have someone like George growing up. So then George was excited to be the George for Benny. And I think Benny probably was attracted to like the truth in George and how free he was and honest he was. And like the first time you see George, he's in a halter top, screaming, throwing out condoms, asking people if they're gay. And if they're gay, they get a condom. And if they're not gay, they don't.
That
so
can
it's
be
like,
so important.
Yeah. Protection. no. But I think Benny probably was drawn to the honesty in George. And I think George was probably, there's something like very fulfilling about being that person, being a mentor, being the representing like the truth to someone else. So I think George at first was like, I'm gonna do this, and then by the end of the season, he was like, you know what, you're on your own time. I don't need to push you to make a decision that you don't want to make.
Sometimes being a hero can be thankless.
Totally. Well, some heroes don't wear capes. They wear halters.
But it is so real.
And low-rise jeans.
And a really low-rise jean. We did an interview recently, Nell and I, and
I wasn't there.
Holmes wasn't there, and
Yes, you were.
and we said, what's a trend that you would love to leave in the past, a 2000s trend that you would love to leave in the past? And Nell turned to me and said,
I did not turn to you.
Nell turns to me and goes, low-rise jeans. Meanwhile, I am in the lowest rise jeans possibly.
I did not turn to him.
No, I
did not realize.
And then she didn't realize. It's actually worse. She said it, and then she looked.
And I was like, low-rise jeans, and then the camera panned down, and Owen's face was like,
I like them now. They're having a moment. It really depends how
you know what they are having a moment.
It depends on your shape, and Owen can pull it off.
Well, now I'm in a pant that literally goes up to my nipple because I'm so embarrassed. I am so embarrassed. So